Hello, America, and welcome back to another episode of To Hear Me Tell It, the life and times of Jerry Daniels. When you've had your daily dose of today's craziness, dealing with all them Karens out there, ride shotgun with old JD as he goes back and recounts the life and times of growing up in the South during the 60s and 70s. I believe we were called baby boomers. Stories that you will say, yep, I done that, but I ain't gonna tell my kids. And I ain't never told my spouse. But whatever the truth be, it will be this, to hear me tell it. Well, good morning, folks, and welcome to, yes, sirree, another episode of To Hear Me Tell It. I think I failed pretty bad last week. It's saying, too many times. So I'll try to do better today. Anyway, as always, I just like to start by saying thank y'all. Thanks to the folks who watch this. Ain't many of y'all, but that's okay. I'm still less than 20 a week. That's okay. So I'm going to ask the ones who do watch, the Joe Stitkas, the Bob Burgett's, the Mike Snyders, Christy Dunbarra. Can I just call her Christy Dunn? Man, I said, see there? Damn it. Said it again. That's hard to do. Everett Bird would not be proud of me. So, without saying that word, I was naming some folks who I believe that are regular listeners. Al Reeder, maybe. Did it again. But the likes of, see there, that is hard. That's hard. You ever tried that? Man, I'm failing miserably. I'll try to get better. The likes I said of. The likes of Bill Amos, Todd Smith, Larry Kirksey, I don't believe they listen as often as I think they do. So we'll just leave it at that. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about several things. Back to the point was thank you to those who do listen on a regular basis, or if you listen somewhat sporadic, I still appreciate it. I ask that you please share the podcast and or YouTube video to whoever. So, all right. Not that I monetize. I don't make any money, and I don't intend to, and I damn sure don't predict I will, but it's still, I guess it's fun. We'll talk about several things today. The first thing I'm going to talk about is my chickens, of course. Bees are a thing of the past. But the man who bought my bees come by the house yesterday. His name's Mr. Chuck. He's a retired pediatrician. An interesting man, an extremely intelligent man, and a gentleman. He's a gentleman, Mr. Chuck. He's a true gentleman. I've gathered that by meeting him probably 6, 7, 8, 9 times between first time he ever come over and looked at the bees and then him buying them. Mr. Chuck's a good man. At least that's my take. You know, a good friend of mine told me one time, I'm squirreling as always, but a good friend of mine told me one time, we were talking about friendships, and he made a comment that was very, very profound. It made a lot of sense. He said, you know, Jerry, the thing about friendships, he said, familiarity breeds contempt. And I thought about that after we departed that day. I thought there's a lot of truth to that. You know, you go on a trip with somebody and you become very familiar with them. Unfortunately, that's true. So, yeah, familiarity can, not will, but can breed contempt. All right, so let's talk about chickens. I guess I got to look over here. And make sure everything's recording right, so I don't sit here and talk for whatever and then realize that nothing worked. I've done that a couple of times flying my drones. I flew our 4th of July picnic. I felt like an idiot. A 4th of July parade. I felt like an idiot. And I ain't going to say I didn't turn it on because I know I did because I looked at the footage, but somehow or another I inadvertently just tapped the little icon on the control screen on my drone controller and I turned off the recorder. And I flew the whole damn thing and didn't record 99% of it. That's a little frustrating. So sometimes Laura goes out with me. She acts as a safety observer, and she'll remind me more than once. You got your recorder on? Is it recording? I'm like, yeah, it's recording. She goes, well, I'm just reminding you. Okay, so we're going to talk about several things. Start with the chickens. The chickens are doing well. Almost did it. Yesterday, I went into a lull. I had a couple of consecutive days where I was getting 7, 8. In a couple of days, I got 9, which means one of the one or more, but at least one of the, I call the minor league girls, laid an egg. And yesterday I got 9 eggs, so I was pretty impressed. So I know for a fact one of the younger Rhode Island Reds, damn it, but anyway, one of the younger Rhode Island Reds started laying, and that was the one that I scared, and it a little bitty, looked like a little quail egg shot out of her ass, and it went across the ground. Some people call them fairy eggs, but it's a little egg. How about that? And I believe she's gotten better, and she laid a pretty decent sized egg yesterday. It's Sunny. I don't think it's Cher. I think Sunny's laying that egg. I don't know. The verdict is out. Anyway, good news is I got 9 eggs yesterday, and sold a dozen yesterday to Mr. Chuck, because Mr. Chuck came over yesterday. And I was inclined to show Mr. Chuck my, you'll see it right here because I'm going to post a picture of it, but you can see my MacGyvered stationary egg candling lamp that I made. And I put it on Facebook because I'm joking when I say, and I know YouTube's going to remind me again to keep it decent, be respectful. I think they would really talk about me talking about that woke liberal woman. So I don't know much about the cussing, but anyway, I'm a cheap ass. But I'm not really a cheap ass. I'm thrifty. I'm frugal. I enjoy making stuff. If I can make it, I'll make it. I enjoy that. And I was talking to a lady the other day, talking about men. Yesterday I was at a breakfast, talking about how men, not all men, because that just kind of broad brushes it, and you become accused of being you're stereotyping people. But there are folks like me, because I'm not alone, who, when something breaks, rather than just throw it away, I'll take it apart. So if something breaks, I don't care what it is, a printer, I'm sorry, I did it, but a printer, any device, a tool, machine, dehumidifier, air conditioning unit, it doesn't matter. If it breaks, refrigerator, freezer, I'm going to take it apart. I'm curious. I want to know how it worked, and I'll learn watching, I guess it's reverse engineering, but looking how people put it together, and that's what I do. So I do that. I have no idea where I was going with this. I almost did it. What was it? Anyway. So I was talking to this lady, and I told her, I said, I saved some parts of a printer, and I used it as part of the rebarbing system in the concrete pad. I said it again, but the concrete pad. So I'm not going to say it again anymore. I know that's probably getting annoying to y'all. It's annoying to me, and I'm the one doing it. Chickens are doing great. They're laying. I hope I'll get 9 today. We'll see. I was just out there, not damn 10 minutes ago, opening their nest boxes. I've already mentioned, don't let your laying hens stay in the nesting boxes at night. Don't let them have access to the nesting boxes at night. Don't do it. The nesting boxes are off limits. Close them up. Find out some way to obstruct it so they can't get in. And you'll have much cleaner nest, which means you'll have cleaner eggs. How about that? That's not my idea. I watched a video from an old boy from North Carolina who showed me that trick. All right, enough about the chicken. Chicken's doing good. I got 2 though, but it's got serious diarrhea. Anybody know? And I've got books. I've read it. By the way, it could be this. It could be that. It could be this. It could be that. I don't know what it is, and it's 2 black Australorps. But man, when they poop, they shit their ass off, and it just looks like a big ass massive orange. It's bright orange pancake. It's nasty. It ain't the typical looking foul turd. Those are easy to clean up, but this diarrhea crap, man, it's just like, ugh. All right, enough about that. Something else I'm going to talk about is, and I posted this on Facebook this morning, an interesting, I got to bring up my phone here to read this, but I shared a tidbit. And maybe I've already shared that. Do you know where the term tidbit came from? It's a term used when the rooster finds food and he distributes it and he gives it to the hens. And it's called, when the rooster does this act, it's called tidbitting. So when the rooster finds a food source, he'll tidbit. He'll pull off a piece and give it to one, pull off a piece and give it to another one. He'll feed the hens. It's called tidbitting. That's where we get the word tidbits from. So, a tidbit of information. So I stumbled upon this morning, and it's amazing what we learn. So I learned about this stuff called castoreum. I wrote it here. Castoreum. And it is an excretion from a gland from a beaver. Yeah. Says it comes from the beaver's anal sac secretion, and it's used in perfumes and as a food flavoring agent. Now get that. Often in vanilla and raspberry products. The substance is a natural secretion from the beaver's castral sac and associated glands mixed with urine. So he mixes this excretion from a gland sac and he mixes it with urine and he uses it to mark his territory. Its territory. I don't say if it's his or her. It has a smoky, leathery, and animalistic scent that becomes more pleasant and fruity when it's diluted with alcohol. I would love to know. I'm going to probably do some history on reading on this. I'd love to know who to come up with this. I think it was probably the likes of like James or Jim Bridger, famous, pioneer mountain men. Maybe they were trappers. So surely the trappers are the one who figured it out. But it becomes fruity and pleasant when it's diluted with alcohol. While historically used, its presence in food now is very, very rare due to the cost and the complexity of making it. And believe it or not, it was actually used years ago in vanilla ice cream. So the flavoring, just think about this now. I don't know how old this is. We probably ain't old enough, but a long, long time ago, somebody was eating vanilla ice cream one day and they go, boy, this shit's good. I wonder if they knew that the vanilla ice cream flavor was enhanced by using the scent out of a beaver's ass mixed with urine. Who would ever thought that? Well, there's some useless information that will, hopefully you'll forget it quicker than I will. So, okay, so not going to talk about politics, but there's enough politics. Boy, I could talk about some politics, let me tell you. But I'm not going to talk about politics. Not going to talk about. I bet the folks in where's it at? Huntsville, Alabama, Space Center. President Trump announced yesterday that that's where the headquarters for Space Force is going to be. So I bet they're pretty happy. I am going to talk about politics because I thought about this outside yesterday when I was doing some cleaning up. I thought about it would have been awesome. This is just a little bit of politics, but it would have been awesome had President Trump, because he had all the folks there. He had all the players. He had the Secretary of Defense. He had congressmen and senators from Alabama. He had the players of Huntsville. What do they call it? Red Arsenal. All the players were there. All the players were there. A lot of politicians obviously were there. But it would have been awesome if President Trump would have turned around and did like this here and said, I'm going to tell y'all fellas something right now. If I catch wind of a single one of y'all or your family members or your buddies and friends have gotten ahead of the game like Nancy Pelosi and have made some investments into what we know is going to be some profiting from this in Alabama, you're fired. If I catch wind of it, I'm going to tell you right now, if any of y'all have used your position to enhance your financial or your friends or family's financial portfolio, you're a piece of shit and you don't need to be working around me at all. The American people deserve better. I wish he'd have done that, but he ain't going to do that. Okay. Next topic, and this is I'm already 14 minutes, so hopefully I'm going to keep this under 30 minutes. Because out of respect for y'all, I'm going to talk about something. And I was thinking about this yesterday. No, not yesterday. The other morning when I was making a breakfast casserole. And I'm going to put a picture on the thing here. It'll probably be over here, but I'll put a picture over here of, and you can see right here, this is the casserole I made. It's not really a casserole because I made it in a bunt. And people may say, if you're looking at this, you may go, why do you keep saying bunt cake pan? Because if you watched My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and that woman and that dude's mom and daddy come to those folks' party, and they brought a bunt cake, and those Greeks were like, bunt. They were making fun. Anyway, they were having fun with it. So, guess you had to watch the movie. If you have not watched the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, watch it. It's freaking hilarious. Not so much the other one. I think they came out with a sequel of 2 and 3. And they're like most sequels, they're not as good as the first one. Just watch the first one. That's all you need to watch. But it's freaking hilarious. And it's true to a lot of senses. It's true. And Laura and I had watched that movie before we went to we got transferred and we went into the Greek island and lived in Crete, Greece. And I may have shared this before, but when I got there, no, I'll do that one later. That'll be another topic. I'm squirreling bad really here, but I was making this thing. So you saw the picture of what I made, and I copied a woman who had a video out, and she made this dish using a bundt cake and using tortilla shells. And she took the tortilla shells, she sliced the 2 round corners off, and then she made long strips out of the middle section. And then she layered that inside that bundt cake pan, and she basically just loaded it with all the makings of a good Mexican dish. The taco seasoned meat. I guess you could use chicken if you wanted to. It doesn't matter. But she put tomatoes in it. She put black olives in it. I think she put cilantro in it. She put onions in it. I think she put some peppers in it. She didn't put no mushrooms in it. And then she layered it with all these different cheeses and stuff. And so I just was coming home the other morning, and I thought, hell, I'll make that, but I'm going to make it a breakfast dish. So I called Laura. I said, do we even own a damn bundt cake pan? She said, nope. I said, well, I'm going to stop at Walmart on the way home, and I'm going to buy us one, and then I'm going to buy the stuff that I need to make us a breakfast bundt cake. Breakfast bundt cake, a BBC. I want to make us a BBC. So I did. And I made what you saw there in that picture, and I'll put it back up. But I made that, and I fried a pound of bacon. That's where this whole story's going, believe it or not. But I fried a pound of bacon, and I browned up 2 pounds of Jimmy Dean sausage. And Laura gets on me because she said, you always buy the hot. Well, yeah, damn right I do. I always buy the hot. So I bought a pound of hot, and I bought a pound of mild, and then I mixed them together. And I used about half of it, so I guess about a pound, and the rest of it I put it in a bag and freeze it, and we'll use it for another dish. And I used probably about half the bacon. If I can keep Laura out of the damn kitchen while I'm cooking bacon, because she tends to eat it as fast as I can cook it. That pisses me off. I shouldn't say that. That annoys me. Does it annoy anybody else? You ever gone camping or fishing with your buddies, and there's always one guy, usually it's me, but there's always one guy who does all the damn cooking. I enjoy cooking, and I'm pretty damn good at it. But go off with a bunch of men folks, and there's always one guy that does all the cooking, and the mother sons of bitches always hovering around the damn, they're like flies. They're hovering around the damn cook site, whether you're out on a campground or in a kitchen. And when you get done, you look over there and you go, I don't have half as much bacon as I started with. I'm cooking. I ain't eat nothing. Half the sausage is gone. The biscuits are about gone. And the only thing you cook last is the eggs, and you got more eggs, and you look at everything else, you go, well, fellas, I'm sorry, but the flies that are hanging around the kitchen don't eat everything. That pisses me off. Laura just annoying. She come around there. And our son is notorious for that crap. Just hovers around the kitchen and just snackles. I'm like, man, get the hell out of here. So, all right. Maybe it's a cooking thing. I don't know. So I made a breakfast dish, and it came out. I was pretty pleased with it. You got to be careful when you're baking something, and you're using a lot of fresh vegetables such as peppers and onions. They got a lot of water in them, and if you're not careful, it's hard to get all that water out of them. But what I've learned is you can stir fry them to get the water out of them. You can put them in a microwave and nuke them to get the water out of them. Just be careful. Or you can put them lay them on cut up all your onions and peppers and lay them on a paper towel, and then put another paper towel on top of them and press the crap out of them. And you'll look and you're like, damn, I got a lot of moisture out of them. Yeah, you want that moisture out of there. You don't want that moisture in your stuff, because it blends with the egg mixture, and then it takes forever for the damn eggs to mix or to bake. So I made that dish, and it came out pretty good, y'all. I was impressed with it. I greased the pan, the bundt can. I greased it with bacon grease. I used all the bacon grease, and I greased inside that pan good, and I put all those layers of tortilla shells in there. I loaded it with taco mix blend and pepper jack and Colby Jack cheese. I used 3 different cheeses. And I blended it out all in there, and then I laid a layer of damn mushrooms in there, and then I put a whole layer of damn sausage in there, and a whole layer of bacon in there, and some peppers and onions, and then I put down the unusable strips, the unusable strips of the tortillas, just like that lady did in the video. I put a whole layer in there, and I just repeated it, and I just built it all the way up to that damn pan was full. And I mean a lot of cheese. You got to go home on the cheese. I wished I'd used red peppers instead of green bell peppers, just because it adds color. It adds color to it. People like color. I like color. And I probably should have used more peppers. I thought I didn't use enough. And then once you're done, you take all the flaps that are hanging on the outside of the bundt can, you lay those back over, and you fold it, and you build like a top, which is later going to be the bottom. And then I greased that with bacon grease. I baked it at 350 for 45 minutes, and I looked in there, and I could see that and I forgot, a dozen of scrambled eggs. I forgot about that. And as you're building the layers, you pour in a few eggs, and then you build it up, and you pour in some more eggs, and you build it up, and you pour in some more eggs. So what I thought was, and I just made this up on the fly, but after about 30 or 35 minutes, I checked on it, and I could see that the eggs were boiling in the bundt cake pan, and they were coming out the top, and they were dripping through that little hole in the middle of the bundt cake pan. And they were dripping down the bottom of the oven, which means I didn't put a pan underneath. I won't have a damn mess. So I thought, I got to do something about this. So I took out one of them big, I don't know what it is made out of. It's so much is heavy. It's a pizza pan, but it weighs like a ton. And it makes that sound that when you cut a knife across it, like fingernails on chalkboard. I can't stand it. So I took out the bundt cake pan, knowing that I could really screw this up, and it's hot, so I got mittens on, and I flipped it upside down on top of that pizza can pan, and then I put it back in the oven for about another 10, 12 minutes, and I could hear it shh, and I thought, I'll let gravity work to my advantage, and any uncooked eggs juices will flow to the bottom, and then maybe anyway, and it came out good. So, and a friend of mine named Annette, she looked at it, and she's a baker, I'm not. And she said, that would have looked really good, and it would probably taste good if you was to layer that with sausage gravy. So that's what I did. I didn't do it initially, but the next piece I had, because we cut them and put them in the refrigerator, next piece I had, man, I covered it heavy with sausage gravy. I mean, good sausage, a lot of black pepper. Got to have black pepper, y'all. Got to have black pepper. A lot of black pepper and sausage gravy and a lot of sausage. Coffee break. All right. So that's what I did. And okay, so here's where this story, man, I'm sorry. We're going to be longer than 30 minutes. That occurred to me when I was making that whole dish thing, when I was frying the bacon. When I was frying the bacon, it occurred to me that I got to close this screen here. It keeps popping up. I don't like looking at that. But it occurred to me that I fry bacon. Well, let me back up. I think as we get older as adults, we tend to realize the habits that we picked up, adopted from our parents. They become really self-evident. I do a lot of things that Daddy does, and I do a lot of things that Mama did. And I said does. I do a lot of things that Mom and Daddy did. They're habits. They're mannerisms, I guess, as we call them. Like even the way I'll clear my throat, sneeze. It's just the sounds we'll make. It's just idiosyncrasies, I guess they call them. But we pick them up. We pick them up from our parents. And it occurred to me when I was frying that bacon, I fry bacon just like Mama. That's what this whole damn story's about. I've already 25 minutes to it. I ain't even got to the damn main topic. This is about, and you saw in the title, it's about forks. But it occurred to me, I fry bacon like Mama. I cook a lot of things like Mama because I watched Mama in the kitchen. I watched her in the kitchen. And it's a shame at the young folks who do not spend an enormous amount of time, whether it's in a shop with their father or whether it's in the kitchen with their mama or it's in the garden with a grandmama or a granddaddy. It doesn't matter. They say values are not taught, but they're caught. So that's about values. I guess they say don't teach, as this is an instructor technique, don't teach technique. Demonstrate technique silently. And the person will either adapt it or they won't, or they'll modify it. Don't teach technique. All right. So, because technique just means this is the way I do it. Mama was skillful. Man, she was skillful in the kitchen. Eleanor Daniels could do magic in the kitchen. Well, Daddy was a good cook too. Now, let me tell you. Daddy, I told y'all before, when it come time to show enough fry chicken, Bob Daniels would fry the chicken. He was good at it. But Mama fried it too, and she was good, but Daddy was really good at frying chicken. But the story is about the fork. Mama used the fork for everything. Everything. I don't care what it was. I wrote a list down here what Mama would use a fork for. And I was frying bacon. I just use a fork. And there's an art to using a fork to do cooking with, because you either learn to stab it, you got to be able to, and it's a 4-prong fork, but you stab it using one of the outboard, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, but you stab the whatever it is, the meat, whatever you're frying, with just one tine of the fork, and it's a flip of the wrist, and just whip it, and you flip it. Or you use the fork like a spatula, and you know how to strategically slide it under that piece of bacon, not at the very end. To get the balance right, you're down there around 2/3 in, and you can flip it, and you get it on there, and you just flip it real quick. Y'all comment, those who are watching this on YouTube, comment if you do this too. Let me know if your parents did this, and if you did you adapt it from them, or you just learned it? But here's the things that Mama would use a fork for, and I watched her a lot. Bacon, sausage. She used it to scramble eggs. She didn't use no whisker, or whatever that thing's called. I don't use one. I just use a fork. I used a fork. Mama would mash potatoes with a fork. She'd cook the potatoes, but she would mash the potatoes with a damn fork. Just a regular dinner fork. If she had to mash eggs like for a salad, she used a fork. She used it to fry chicken fried steak, cube steak, salmon patties, mixed cake batter, whipped cream. I don't care what it was. Mama used a fork 99% of the time. The only thing she didn't use a fork for was to flip a fried egg. She used a spatula for fried egg. And Mama, when she fried eggs, I don't know if your mama did this, but Mama used a lot of that grease and old cooking grease. Had a thing that would sit on the stove. It was a big old can. And when I first married Laura couldn't believe it. She goes, "What is in that can?" I said, "Man, that's bacon grease. It's bacon grease. A lot of bacon. Hell, that could be like 6 months of bacon grease right there just sitting in that thing." And it had a strainer on top. It had a lid. You opened it up. You pull the strainer off. You scooped your big old spoonful of that bacon grease and you put it in the pan and you use it again. She goes, "Does it go bad?" I go, "I don't know. And it does not smell nice, but it doesn't matter. It's bacon grease." But Mama would use bacon grease to fry eggs. And either it was fresh from, she just done a bunch of it, or she needed it. Mama used bacon grease on everything too. But when she fried eggs, she would tilt the pan so all the grease would come down to one end, and she would take the spatula. And when the egg was sitting there like so, let me back up. So the egg was sitting there like so, and then she'd tilt the pan strategically. She's really good at this. And she'd take the spatula and she'd go, she'd flip the grease back up on top of the egg. And she would use that hot grease starting to basically coat the top of the egg that hadn't been flipped yet, so that when she did flip it, the yolk wouldn't break. It's pretty smart. I asked her one day, I go, "Why do you do that?" And she goes, "So when I flip it, the yolk don't break." I said, "Oh, how about that?" So there you go. I just got a text. I'm sorry. Distraction. I shouldn't do that. I got it turned off. So Mama did all that stuff with the fork. She cooked everything with a fork. I loved watching Mama cook in the kitchen. She was a master. And I told y'all that she can make grits. She cooked grits with a fork. She started with a fork. Mama did everything with a damn fork. I loved it. And I do the same thing. So I got to thinking about the fork. And you'll see I'm going to put a picture up here about a place setting. Some folks really get all uppity about how to put the plate, and then on the right side is the knife, and then if you got a steak knife, it's the most inboard, and then if you got a butter knife, it's the next knife, and then if you got a soup spoon, it's on the outboard right hand side, and then if you're going to have oysters, your oyster fork goes over here, and then on the left side is your dinner fork, is the closest to the plate. And then the next one is a salad fork. And then if you have a fish entree, your fish fork. And I don't get all wrapped up in that. But I do. I'm going to confess. When I set a table, the fork goes on the damn left. And when I set a plate, fork's on the left, knife's on the right. And if I got a spoon, the spoon will be on the right. That's just me. All right. So there. Technique. Don't teach technique. But I wrote them all down here. So, and I got to thinking about forks. First of all, here's the different, this is official. I wrote it down. It's got to be official. But this is the official number or the different types of forks, and this is not all inclusive. Some of these you're familiar with, some of them you may not. I just learned two myself. Of course, we know there's the dinner fork, there's the salad fork, there's a dessert fork, there's a cake fork. There's a serving fork. There's a cocktail fork. There's an oyster fork, which Stuart O'Hearn is very familiar with, if he even uses his fork. I think Stuart just probably eats with his hands. But there's an oyster fork. There's a fruit fork. There's a fish fork. Of course, there's a pitchfork. But there's an ice cream fork. I didn't know that. It's a spork. I didn't know that. It's official. I'm looking at it right here on my screen. Ice cream fork. I didn't know there was a such thing. There's a cheese fork. There's a snail fork, not to be confused with a fish fork. And then there's the carving fork. So there we go. So here's the question I'll ask y'all, and y'all tell me, come back at me. Were you familiar with all these different types of forks? And here's a good question are you a 4-prong or a 3-prong type person? Have you ever gone to somebody's house or gone to a restaurant and they give you a 3-prong fork? It's really, a 3-prong fork is more used in cocktail forks. Traditionally, a salad fork and a dinner fork have 4 prongs. But have you ever gone to somebody's house and you're like, oh, why are we using three-prong forks? I don't know. So here's the truth of that. It says I'm reading it off the internet here, but a three-tined, we call it a prong, tined, a three-tined fork is typically used for desserts, cakes, certain seafood dishes, while a four-tine, for prong, is a standard eating. So if you feel inclined and you go to those uppity people's houses and you look down and you're going, the dinner fork is a three-prong fork, and if you want to act like you know something, just keep your mouth shut. But a three-tine fork is not to be used as a main course fork. I'm just telling y'all. You can take it to the bank. All right. So, a little history on the forks. This is interesting. So, and I got to thinking when I was doing all this research, all of 5 minutes. I got to thinking, why didn't the Japanese or the Asians, but why is it that the Japanese and the Chinese never adapted the fork? That's a good read in itself. But the history of the fork, if you will, is it's interesting. It's interesting. So the fork is said to be originated in ancient civilizations like Egypt, Greece, and Rome as a cooking and a serving tool, eventually appearing as a smaller table utensil. And it was said to have come up around the 7th century into the Middle East and the Byzantine Empire. And after a Byzantine princess controversially introduced forks in 11th century in Venice, they remain rare and controversial in Europe until Catherine de Medici or whoever popularized them in France in the 16th century. Forks didn't become common in general population until the Industrial Revolution in the 18th and 19th century, leading to diverse specialty forks. So that's when the folks who walk around with their nose in the air, you always got them people want to separate by class. So there was this one, scandalous thing about the that person that came back, and she brought these forks back, and anyway, and they thought it was the devil's work. How dare you? And there's folks that thought that you need to eat with your hands. That God give you. There was a religious take on this too. Is God gave you your hands to eat with? Don't you be using no damn fork. Forks are the devil's work. So imagine that. And believe it or not, before the 17th century, forks were primarily used by Italians. Imagine that. Found them convenient for eating pasta. Which that makes sense. So anyway, going back to the Asians, the Chinese and the Japanese, and I'm just paraphrasing here, y'all, but the Japanese and Chinese, they didn't adapt, although they saw it especially. But the Chinese got it from the Japanese got it from the Chinese. That's where the chopsticks. That's where they got it for. And people ask today, well, why don't the forks? It's the bee's knees, man. Why don't they eat with a fork? And Confucius, that's where this came from. Confucius did not believe that a weapon such as a knife or a fork should be at the table where you eat. So they used a chopstick. I think they just had a lot of bamboo. But ain't nobody ever been killed by a set of chopsticks. I've watched those kung fu movies. Hell, there's a damn lady pull a chopstick out of her hair, stab a dude in the face, kill him. They kill animals with chopsticks. Chopstick can be used as a weapon. Confucius said, though, no, they don't want to do that. And I was a host to a Chinese feller who came to America when I worked for Shaw Industries. And I took him out to dinner, brought him to Jasper, let him go out and shoot guns and all this other stuff. But he used a fork when we went out to eat. Maybe he was just being respectful of our culture. And I love my children, but whenever we go to their house and they have an Asian dish, they bust out the chopsticks. and they give everybody a set. And I'm not ugly. I'm not rude. I'm going to go, can I have a fork? I'm not Japanese. I'm not Chinese. I don't have this adaptation that Confucius told me that I don't need to. And there are people that goes, well, to eat rice, it's got to be like they cook it is the best way to, I guess, to do it. They say, you got to do all the. They don't like to do a lot of dabbling. I mean, but anyway, I'm gonna tell you right now, I've visited the Orient many times, and you want to see something that's hard not to stare at, is to watch somebody use a set of chopsticks, pick up a big old piece of fish or a big old piece of meat or a damn chicken head, and they hold their head sideways and they gnaw on it. And I'm just thinking, well, damn, if you had a fork and a knife, you could have cut that up into a small nibbling, and you wouldn't be doing all the stuff you're doing. So anyway, all right, that's all I got. So what are our takeaways here? Is let me know, y'all do. Let me know if your mama was the master of the fork in the kitchen, and did she use the fork for most duties and tasks? Mama did a fork for everything. Even, she would make the flour batter for biscuits. She would make the flour batter for like when she was going to fry chicken. She just mixed everything. The fork is like the universal tool in America in the kitchen. And I go camping. Hell, I don't need a lot of things. Just give me a fork, and I can flip a pan. I don't need a spatula to flip an egg. When I'm in the kitchen frying eggs, I just with the pan, I can flip it. I can make an omelet. I don't need a damn. I can do it. I don't know what to tell you. I can do it. All right, I'm way too long. Already at 41 minutes. Thank y'all for watching and listening. I appreciate it very much. Please hit that share button. And if you're watching it on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel and like it. Y'all have a safe, blessed day. Can y'all believe it? I'm looking at my calendar over there. September is here. Fall is in the air up here in North Georgia. It's getting brisk and down in the 60s at night, and I'm loving it. And I've got to insulate a lot of parts of my chicken coop that I built. I started my chicken coop now. Y'all remember this. I started my chicken coop back in March and April is when I started it. And I built it with in mind that it's hot as blazing Jimmy's here in the summer. So I built it so it was well ventilated. They won't get no respiratory diseases. Air moves in there. I got an attic fan that cuts on with a thermostatic control device. So the little louvers open up and it blows air. And I got cold air, cooler air coming in off the ground, and it comes up and it vents out the top and all that. Well, that's all fine and dandy for the damn summer. But now winter's coming, and I got to block all that stuff off. So I got to figure out how to do. Well, I've already got it figured out right here. MacGyver it. So I just got to get on that. That's it, folks. Y'all have a blessed day. Have a safe week. I'll talk to y'all next week. Mike Coker. Buddy, you got to get up and go to work. You know what? I'm thinking about Mike Coker. It's September. He's already making preparations to head south. He lives in a Class A, beautiful Class A motor home. He lives large. Mike Coker lives large. He is living the dream. But he's got his Class A motor home, and his hobbies are three things: golfing, drinking fine whiskey, smoking good cigars. That's it. And he's got a really nice girlfriend. So maybe there's four. But that's what Mike Coker does. And he's mastered it, and he's not distracted with a bunch of other stuff like me. I get distracted with a lot of hobbies, and then I bore easy. So anyway, Mike Coker, get up and where are we at? Yep, get up and go to work, brother. Bicycle.